Cool. Cool. So there's a couple things to talk about before we get super started. One of them is look at the one that says games. Look at the piece of paper you have, physical piece of paper. It says games for Unity at the top. And the fun font. Important class info. So we already went over how to contact us. I did want to mention, just so everyone's on board, the attendance policy is that you'll be here for 80% of the classes or more. And if you can't do that, or whatever classes that you miss, you need to come to me to schedule how to make that up. And we will work through that. And I need to, it needs to be something that I approve. It can't just be like, well, I'm going to go do that thing, okay? So, just because this is a lot of work for all the people involved, myself, the volunteers, the library, put in a lot of resources to do that. We want to be respectful to all the people that have done that, and we want you to succeed. And both of those things kind of require you to be here. So that's our attendance policy. Then on the second page, there's another one that says Games for Unity, and it's got like a calendar thing. Like, please take this home, put it on your fridge, like, shove it in your parents' or guardian's face, and just be like, this is when we have class. So if you ever have any questions about when we have class, those are the dates. They're highlighted in green. The graduation is on the last day following class over in that room. Some of you in my previous early classes, we used to be in there. So, those are all the things from that paper, but please take those papers home and give them to your parents or guardians. Stop. Talk that. Oh, yes. We also meet from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Those are the times. And I think we're past the inclement weather period. Fingers crossed. So we won't have to cancel class for any kind of snow thing. So. Yeah, class starts at 9:30. Yes. I did want to mention about that too. So the first 10 minutes of every class are going to be cool tips and tricks and customization for your game time. So if you make it in that time, I'm only going to talk about those things for the first 10 minutes of the class. You're only going to get to work on those things for the first 10 minutes of the class. And then we're going to start the material, and I'm not going to wait for anyone to be later than 10 minutes. So if you miss the material, then you're going to have to work to catch up. So those are housekeeping things. Let's talk super briefly about the classroom guidelines. These are sort of like the other side of the coin to our code of conduct, instead of like what like shouldn't happen to you and what you shouldn't do. These are the things that you should be, and the things that we are like aspiring for you to be. So look, I hate this little bar thing. Alright, cool. So Nevaeh, do you want to read just the first two words? The first B. Be respectful. Cool. So we want everyone here to respect your fellow students, respect your instructor, respect the volunteers, the TAs, the library staff, all the patrons, all of the equipment that's here, and everyone comes with different levels of understanding and different skills, to learn at different paces. We just want everyone to be respectful of their desire to learn and their energy to do so. Respect where they're at, and they're also to respect their physical and emotional boundaries. So if somebody is giving you vibes that you should back off, do it. Respect yourself and the time and effort you're making to be here, because it is effort. Everybody, you want to read the second one?
Be supportive.
Cool. Be supportive. So when you see someone struggling, offer help. Or if you yourself are struggling, go ahead and ask for help. When others accomplish something, celebrate them. We want this to be a place where people are not only proud of themselves, but proud of others and what they're doing. See the progress that you've made, see the progress that they've made. All the progress that we will all make is valid. Doesn't matter how much or how fast. Be kind to yourself if you're having a hard time grasping something, and find things to appreciate in others and their work. Kita, do you want to read the third one there? Be curious. So try things out. Code is a lot about curiosity. What will happen if I do this? I've specifically written some of our lessons in our code to try things before we get to the right way to do it, so that you learn hopefully better like what the ramifications of the code that you're writing really are. Unity is a lot about trying different stuff. Like what happens if I put this value at this? What happens if I make it bigger? What happens if I add this thing? There's just so much to try. It's a very fast, iterative experience where you can make a lot of sweeping changes pretty quickly. So that's our be curious. And Anjali, do you want to read the last one? Cool. Be resilient. Expect your code to not work the first time. Hopefully, unless you're copying what I've done. But there's always room for typos. Expect your code to do seemingly absurd things. In fact, we will on purpose do absurd things in here. It's normal. It's part of the learning experience. But in the face of that, learn where your limits are, take breaks when you need to, and keep coming back. Look for new ways to approach, look for advice from others, use all of your resources, and ask for help. Cool. Is that everyone okay with all of those? And everyone want to do all that in this class? Yeah. Cool. All right, let's get to the project. So, ooh, yes. Ooh. Yeah. Wow. All right. So, we're going to be learning how to develop games using the Unity engine and the C# programming language. These are the tools that I use professionally at work. So these are really advanced tools. Prepare to feel a little overwhelmed when you look at things like this. And we're all working on the same project. There's no individual projects in this class. There's also not a group project that everyone contributes to. We're all just going to be sort of like working through learning material. If you make it through this class and you really like what you learned, there's going to be a follow-up class where you will be making your own project, and it'll be largely self-directed. We're going to be making farming simulation games, is what we're going to be doing in this class. And our end goal is to understand how to craft different parts of a game and add new features. Not necessarily, we're not going to have like a finished project at the end. We're just going to be learning about the different parts, how to do things. Because Unity is a component-based language, which we'll talk about later today. We're making little parts of the whole and learning how to do that. So, before we get the project though, really quick, I did want to go over some introductions. So, volunteers, if you could come to the front really quick. I'm going to go over myself really quick again. Like I said, my name is Eric Kolzar. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I am a game developer with Skyview Entertainment. We make mobile games mostly, and I use Unity to do that. So I'm going to have all four of you say your name, your pronouns, what your focus is in tech right now. Like, do you do it as a hobby? Do you do it as school? Do you do it as work? And what kind of technology you mainly use? And if you're doing it funny. Emma, do you want to go first? Sure. Guys, stand on that side.
So, my name is Emma. I'm a student at UNO. I'm studying computer science. And I participated in doing games in Unity for instrumentation. proud about in this experience and what they're doing and what's going on. Pronouns she,
It doesn't have to be your absolute favorite. Okay, we'll come back to you on that.
Okay. I'm Wendy, and I'm a she, her, and hers. And I currently work as a full-time developer in something called Ruby on Rails, and which was really, really easy. We taught in sheet class for that. That was fantastic. And the full stack support part of it is when a JavaScript library that works. I do love JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and HTML. And my favorite movie. I have television shows more than movies. I just switch it and do television shows.
Okay, sure.
Okay. I watch over and over again.
All right. And
You're next to you guys related to favorite class. I'm a full stack developer who tutors around a few stuff. I've never used it before either, so I'm going to do that. I love Back to the Future.
yeah, it's got comedy in there for sure.
I'm a professional developer, and I mostly make Ruby on Rails applications and
I can only think of the TV show.
Okay, that's fine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any favorite fun TV show is The Office.
Okay.
My husband and I are like watching it right now. It's super special of mine.
How many times have you rewatched it though?
I we watched it once, but we didn't watch the entire thing. I think we watched the last couple seasons and are so interested.
Cool. Volunteer. We're gonna do a really fast, sort of similar thing with y'all, just so y'all can get a feel of who everyone is in this class. So I'm gonna ask you your name, your pronouns, and what we mean by that is when somebody doesn't use your name, what should they use instead? Like, Nevaeh is a great student. She likes to code things and make a Pokemon app. You can be like she, her, hers, he, him, his, they, them, theirs, or whatever pronouns you like. And then, so we'll do name, pronouns, your favorite thing about coding, or a favorite thing about coding, and your favorite phone, or TV show. TV show's fine too. All right, who wants to go first? Nobody. All right, somebody wants to go first. Woo! So go ahead. You don't have to face everyone at least, but can you at least stand up so that we can know exactly who's talking right now?
My name is
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Cool. All right, you ready yet?
My name is Nevaeh. I go in that first
Okay. Sure. All right. Turn it around.
I'm a Kura. My favorite thing about coding is complicated. And you can do whatever you want with it, and there's no limit to the amount of code you can have. So if I wanted to make like a huge website, I would use this small animation to do it. And my favorite part of it is also
What one you like? Okay. All right. Angeline, you want to go up?
Yeah.
Just kind of working this front. Back.
My name is Angela, and I think I'm a G, and our account is 11.5
Ooh, me too. I still haven't seen it. Cool. Lauren, you want to go ahead? Everything about coding. Being lazy is great. Yeah, that's a good one. It's not on Netflix anymore though. You're on that. All right.
Hi, my name is Emma. Teaching characters. It's like a puzzle where you're trying to connect to different things. You have a couple of pictures and the box is going to be like you get to decide what that is.
Nice. Wow, that's throwback. I'm not gonna say that, but whole dragon. Alright. Can I me? Yeah. Oh, SpongeBob. Oh, SpongeBob shirt. Cool. Now we all sort of know each other. If you click on this, you can go ahead and hit the next button. If you haven't clicked on this, go ahead and click on getting started. So we already have the software installed on all of these laptops. If you do want to use your own laptop, you can do that. There's a link to Unity, which you will. Ooh, I guess it looks like I stopped writing that probably because I realized that we had it installed on all these laptops. But I haven't finished that. You can look at this at home and get Unity there. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on under get the project. It says we'll be using GitHub Desktop for our Git management, which is already installed on your computer. The repository of the project lives here. Click on that. Boop. It'll open this up. We'll get our emails. There. Right. It'll look like this. And that green button that says clone or download. Go ahead and click on that. And then that will look like there's one that says open in desktop. Go ahead and click on that one. So the repository of the project lives here. The application is actually open. No, it looks like it's just going together. Okay. So go ahead. Repository. No, wait. Cancel. All right, everyone. So that link is not gonna work. So you're gonna open You're gonna open GitHub desktop. It's hard to show you what it looks like right now because it always has a repository open. But there'll be 3 buttons. So go ahead and go to your desktop and click on the desktop. Like go to the.
Open desktop.
That doesn't work. So
Well,
go ahead and
go download for Windows.
You can go ahead and push the Windows button on your keyboard and search for GitHub. Yeah.
Well, this one.
Oh no.
Okay.
Push the button. Yep. Hold on. So go ahead and go back to the previous page. You can't open the desktop, that doesn't work. No, we're just gonna copy the you don't. So go ahead and put the Windows up there and search for GitHub. The purple icon. It's like reading and writing. Yeah.
Mine isn't. Oh my god!
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so it looks like we did not get that one. Sorry about that. So you're going to click on clone repository. The right one there. You're going to go to no URL on the right. We're going to go back to the GitHub browser page that we were on.
Okay, I'm at
You don't need to go through here.
Go ahead.
We're going to do a clone or download. The forward button. Yep. URL.
Wait, I missed one.
Listen. Push that clipboard button. Go back to desktop. Oh, we're so close. We're so close, everyone. If you've got the repository already cloned, go ahead and switch. It'll have these branches. go ahead and switch to lesson 1. And I'm going to discard my changes. Discard changes. Maybe. And switch to lesson 1. There we are. Why is this player prefab changed? That's why. Alright, if you are clone, if you're on branch lesson 1, we are going to open that Windows key or the Windows key, the start button thing. You don't see this yet, you'll see it without this, but you need to be on this projects tab right here. And then you're going to click this button right here, the open button. It should have put your clone into documents, GitHub, and the name of our button. You go ahead and say that. Okay. Oh my gosh. It's not even going to let me do that.
What?
What's that? Okay, just going to click on it. Open it. So select that folder, and then select folder when you can actually hit that button. So we'll put on GitHub. There. And click on game and hit select folder.
The waters are like responsible. Okay.
It'll only have to do this importing small assets and stuff the first time, so it won't take as long as we open the project.
Yes. Congratulations.
Maybe
Okay.
there's really nice people
Got it. Open. Is Unity opening right now?
Okay.
There it is. Yep.
Let's try that again. Let's try that again. There we go.
Cool, yay. One Unity open. This one is almost there. It's almost there.
I like that you say balloon, please.
So we got these computers from Interface. Or actually, I guess from AIM. Okay. So that was a generous donation because we needed Windows or Mac to run Unity, and without that, we couldn't do the class because we can't do it on Chromebooks like we used to do our other classes. And we can't, unfortunately, install anything on these computers that will persist next week. So your data on these will actually persist next week. Anything you download, any of that stuff, will be here for the remainder of the class. It'll be wiped at the end of the class. But all of your work is going to be saved on here, which is why we're all labeling our computers. I'm going to go ahead and open my project. If you have a computer, you can install me on yes, you can do that. Yes. So we can, I can go through getting that computer and we'll make sure to get set up for when we have to work on that computer. Okay, cool. Okay, super. And some of the things that you have will be particular to you, but a lot won't, so it'll be fine that you use two computers for now. I'm just gonna create a new scene, so it looks like whatever. Oops, and I'm gonna do default layout. There we go. Cool. When you've got this on your screen, can you just raise your hand so I know who's there already?
Raise your hands very, very high so she can actually see it.
Has everyone got this on their screen?
What? Mine is a little
Great. I'm sorry, you have the camera gizmo turned on. I just don't like that gizmo. All right. We've done it. We have got to Unity. We made it. Yay! So, the first thing I'm going to talk about here are these windows. What you see mostly here are windows. I can see from right here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 windows. And you can tell that it's a window because it's got this little tabby thing. This little tab, every one of these little tabs is a window. I'm going to go over some common things that the windows do. First, just general windows within Unity kind of things. So this part is a little bit participatory. I encourage you to try out things that I'm doing on the screen. So windows can be resized. If you go to a border between two windows, you can do stuff like this and make it bigger and smaller. Take up different space. This is good to know because sometimes you're going to need to see more information in one window than another, and you're going to want to take over that space either permanently or temporarily. So all the windows can resize like that. Windows can be moved to other places. So here I'm going to grab this game window and I'm going to move it over here with hierarchy. And now it's over here instead of where it was. I could move it over here with the inspector. And I could actually use it to split another window if I wanted. So now it's sharing this column with the inspector. Yeah, and now I could like share this row. This would be a really terrible setup because you couldn't see anything in your game, but you can do that. So all of these windows can just be docked like that. Lastly, if you see it not snap to anything, you can just let it go and it can become its own sort of like free window here that just lives on top of everything else. Unfortunately, Unity did, I think, a pretty poor job of implementing this, And like if I go to another application and come back, sometimes I'll lose this window depending on like, it's kind of like, so like if it's just kind of hard to manage. I would not let them float out there for very long. I like to keep them tabbed in here, docked in. And then all of these are accessible in different layouts. You can make your own layout, and you can use the ones that Unity has by default. So now it's set them up in this fashion in 2x3. 4 split looks like this, where you actually have 4 scene windows to tell you that are going to show you different sides of something. This is the one I like to use, so I just named it Eris. But for right now, we're going to stick with default so that everyone's on the same page. So when you look at somebody else's project, it doesn't get super confusing about where something is. And if you ever lose a window, because you can like right click on them, and you could say close tab, and you're like, oh no, where's my game window? The window option in your menu bar at the top, you can always find your windows here. So I can get my game back. And then just whoop. Eventually, there we go. Put it on there. Cool, makes sense? Everyone grasping cool. Now we're going to actually talk about one of these windows. So we're going to talk about this thing called the hierarchy. It's on the left. And right now it looks like kind of nothing. It just says untitled. And it's got a little icon and it's got a little arrow. And that's about it. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to click on that little arrow and expand it down. And then it says main camera. That's all we've got. All we've got in our hierarchy right now. So what these two things mean is that untitled is the name of your scene. And the hierarchy shows you all of the game objects that live in your scene. Game objects are sort of like a class that Unity visually represents to store components. And components you can think of as bits of code that do very specific things. So you can have a component that handles physics. You can have a component that defines an area to collide with. You can have a component that renders an image on the screen. You can have a component that renders text on the screen. All of those will be like different components. And in order for this editor to be like a useful tool to you, you can quickly add a component to a game object, and you can like build things with components very quickly. So this is going to tell you all of the game objects in your scene, and right now we only have one. So let's create another one. We're going to go create. Right under the hierarchy, everything that's going to get created here will be a game object of some sort. And an empty child will be the most basic game object that you can make. So let's do create empty. And it'll just say game object. What's that?
What's the difference between empty and empty child?
Cool, good question. We'll get to that in 1 second. So, an empty game object, what does it have on it? Right now, it has just this transform. We're going to get to this inspector window in 1 second, but I'm going to just briefly mention it. It's only got this one component on right now. So this is the most bare bones game object you can have. Every game object has to have a transform. It has a name, which you can see is just game object, but it could be anything. And in fact, let's change the name, and we can do that in the hierarchy window by clicking on it and waiting a second. It'll highlight like this and call it whatever you want. You can say like my first game object or whatever. It can take a lot of different kinds of text. It can have spaces. You can capitalize. You can do what you want. Have numbers.
What you do?
So, what's that? Okay. So is everyone create an empty game object? See if you want to go around and see if they've created one, and if they've named it, figure out how to name it.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Cool. So that's one way we can. Um, that's one way we can rename game objects. And names are useful because you'll be looking at this and you want to easily get to the thing that you care about. So if you want to get to the player, you should probably name the player so that when you're looking for it, you can just easily access it. Just like you would name variables. This name part is just a helpful reference for you. So let's go back to a previous question. What is create empty child? Make sure that type or whatever the name object is selected. Like, see how it's blue highlighted right now? That means it's selected. Keep it selected and then click on create and click on create empty child and see what happens. So now you can see we have another one of those. Yeah. So now you can see just like there's an arrow at the top of the C. Now there's another one of those triangle arrows by your game object where you can show and hide what are called its children. And if I could accurately touch the screen, then I would do it. There we go. And so that is another important feature of the hierarchy. The hierarchy is literally a hierarchy. It shows you top level, next level, next level. You can have as many layers as you want. You can, in fact, click on your new child game object and click create empty child, and you have yet another layer. And so that child is parented to the one before it. There is no limit.
There isn't.
There is. There are good practices, but there is no limit. And when you get to the inspector window, we'll also talk about the ramifications of childing objects because it's not just a visual thing, it has in-game ramifications. So that is that. That's the hierarchy window. And okay, I want everyone to open your little notepad thing that you got all these index cards. And you have your pencil with you. I just want you to write down, these are not tests, they're not, you don't have to ever even look at this again, it's fine. It's just, I want to hammer home some points, and writing is like another way to get it into your brain. I just want you to write, game objects are containers or components. And game object is actually one word, just like you see it there. Game object, capital G, capital O. That's how Unity will refer to game object, the idea, the class. Are containers for components. And Unity is built around component-based architecture, so that's a very important concept to remember. Let's talk next about the inspector window. Once you've got that written down, we're going to look over at the right-hand side now. This is our inspector window. Basically what the inspector window does is it gives us more information and it lets us change things. So it gives us options to edit about whatever is currently selected, and it gives us extra information. So, whereas in the hierarchy I could only see the name of the object, now I can see all of its components. I can see whether it's what layer it's on here, what tag it has, and all of the values for the component that are exposed in the inspector. So the transform component, let's talk super briefly about that, because actually, sorry, going to keep on task here. Inspector. The inspector is not only used so it's just game objects in the hierarchy window, although that's one of its most main uses. It can also be used alongside other windows to give you information about things. So if I go down here in the project window and I select something, I've now selected this folder called animations. It's trying to tell me more information, but it's really just a folder, so it really doesn't have anything useful to tell me. But if I was to go into there and I clicked on this animation, now it's going to tell me some stuff about that animation, and it's going to give me some options. Just like in the hierarchy, the inspector also works with the project window, which is down here. We won't really talk about the project window today, but I just wanted to let you know that the inspector actually changes based on not just the hierarchy window. So, and obviously if I'm clicking on these different objects, it's going to tell me the info about whatever is selected. That also works with multiple objects. So now I've got 3 objects selected. I control selected those. You can also shift select them to select multiple objects. And whatever is different, it's going to show the line. That line in the name just means all these things aren't the same. If they were all named game object, it would just show game object because that's their name. So let's actually use the inspector now as a second way to change our name. We're going to select multiple objects, and we're going to click up here, and we're going to say, we are all the same, or whatever you want to say. And now, once you hit enter, you'll see that we named all of our objects that, and that's easily visible in the hierarchy window. So you can name it whatever you like, but whatever name you apply there will apply to all those objects. And the same thing would happen if we make any other kind of change. As long as the component lets you edit multiple objects, that can differ because some components are very, very, very tricky. They only want you to change one game object. So let's do something slightly more interesting with this. We're going to talk about the transform component, the one component that you see here. But in order to do that, we're going to create something a little bit more interesting. We're going to go to this hierarchy window, and we're going to create a 3D object. Let's create a capsule. Bing! It looks like my lighting is on. I'm going to turn my lighting off. If yours looks black, there's this little option right up here by the thing that says 2D. And you can click that, so it should appear sort of like white and gray. And then I'm actually, for right now, we're not really going to go back to this, but for just right now, to show you the nature of the transform object, we're going to click that 2D button so it's unhighlighted. And now we're going to enter the 3D space. Now, with the object highlighted in the hierarchy, let's go over to our transform object and let's make some changes. Make them small to begin with so that you can see them. because big changes might get so big that they get out of your view. So if we change our x to 1, do you see how it moves over there? And if we move it back to 0, now it's there. Same thing with y, now we're moving it up. These are the three axes. We've got x, which is our left, I guess it's technically our right. Our z is our forward, and our y is our up and down. We can use positive and negative numbers. We can also use numbers with decimal points to get more exact. And one cool thing that you can do if you don't know exactly where you want something, is you can mouse over the actual position right here, and we can just click and drag. And that will help you get a general area where you like, and then make it more specific from there. So we just started editing values for the position of the transform. Who wants to give a guess at what the position represents? Where it is on the grid. I like that. That's what you see right now. So where it is in Unity's world space right now, because it's not a child or anything. It's in world space. Unity has a world. Its center is 0, 0, 0, and it goes out in every direction, theoretically infinitely from there. Although it does have limits because numbers on computers have limits. So let's do something to lose our capsule. We're going to enter a number that's way too big. And we're going to say its x is at 99999 or something like that. What happened? Why don't we see our capsule anymore? Anyone have a guess? The number is too big for the computer, it can't handle it. That is not a big enough number that the computer can't handle yet. So not that one.
It doesn't fit in our window of space. We can only see so many numbers here in the window besides beyond our field.
Yes. So exactly. We can only see so many units here. Unity uses their own sort of unit system, which I believe is actually a reader. But that's not really important for most purposes. So yeah, we can only see so many here. I'm going to teach you a cool trick to find things you've lost in the scene view. We are going to have our objects selected. So you're going to select your capsules, and you're just going to push the F button. Do you see it again? Did anyone not find their capsule? After selecting it and pushing it. Oops.
Oh my goodness.
So, you might need to be over this. That's what's happening. I'm sorry. You'll need to move your mouse over the scene view to do that. So, yep, and push F.
I don't know here.
Is it? Oh, that's needed it. Yes. So that actually you did make it. Let's just do 9999. Either way is fine. So if you over the seat now, push F. There we go. We found it. Yeah. So we're gonna over that. So selected for the center. Moved over this area and push out. There we go. Moved it. Yeah. Make it. I don't know off the top of my head. I've never thrown anything that far out. I've never thrown anything that far out. Okay. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna get through the transform, and then we're gonna have lunch. Okay? So if everyone focuses, we'll get lunch. It's fine. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Rotation. Who can guess what rotation does? Perfect. That's a way to think of it. Lauren? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's definitely another way to think of it. I like to think of it as like where the object is facing. So every object has a forward, and that's represented right now. You can see that blue arrow. That's its forward. Every object has a forward, and it's going to be like where the object is facing. So we can edit those rotation values here. So like if I just move this X, it's going to move it around. You see how the green and the blue are moving, but the red is staying the same? Because that's the red is the axis, so it's going to rotate it around the axis. I can do that with the Y axis, and now we're rotating around. Oops, hold on, let me change this to world space. Now we're rotating around the Y axis. And now, yeah, these right here are degrees. Now we're rotating around the Z axis. Okay. Let's everyone learn a really fast way to get stuff back to where we want. So if I put a bunch of numbers in, just put weird things, and you're like, wow, everything is so wrong. You can just put whatever numbers you want in. Go ahead and just put some numbers and stuff, and that's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to this little gear thing right here. It's right next to this book with a question mark on it. And we're going to go to the first option that says reset. Now, you might have lost your capsule again because you might have focused somewhere else, but click on it, go to the scene, push F, and everything is back to the way it started. Reset is a way to get back to all its default values. So the default values for transform are no position, or a position of 0, 0, 0, a rotation of 0, 0, 0, and a scale of 1, 1, 1. Why do you think the scale is 1 and not 0? You don't have an idea what scale means? Someone new? Anjali, you have a guess? How big it is. That's a good way to think about it. Yes. So it's got a size on the 3 axes that we've been moving and rotating. We also have a size on that. So who has a guess on why the scale is 1 and not 0? Nikita? Okay, yeah. So like, if we have an object, let's say this water bottle, and it has this size that it has right now. Like this is how it came. If I had like a magic device, I can make it bigger or smaller. The way that I would represent that in math is that I would have it's sort of like a percent of what it came as. So this object came to me at this size. I didn't determine that. That capsule came to us at that size. We didn't determine that either. Unity determined that. So you'll have assets like this capsule that come to you at a certain size, and 100% of that size is going to be represented by 1. So its normal size is just 1. And then decimal points lower than that will be percentages of that that would be under 100. So like 0.9 would be 90% of the size. It would be 90% of its original size. It would be smaller by 10%. All the way down to, again, as close to 0 as you can get, because if you have 0% of something, you have nothing anymore. So we could also go negative, which is fun. And then we've inverted it. We've inverted, so I can actually just show you that right now. If you keep taking the scale down, it comes out the other side. Which actually is useful in some scenarios. So that's our scale. We have position, we have rotation, and we have scale on transform. Every game object will have a transform component. That's guaranteed. It's impossible to not have that.
How about maybe?
But not every game object will utilize its transform. Sometimes you just need your code attached to a game object, but you don't really care that it's in 3D space. It is theoretically in the game in 3D space, whether you want it to be or not. But you might not necessarily need to manipulate that component. You might just be using code on it. All right, cool. So that is the hierarchy, the inspector, and the transform component. Does anyone have any questions about those 3 things? Ooh, where would I go to find out more about game objects? You can go to the help window, and you can go to, there are 2 different places. So if I wanted to know a very specific code thing about game objects, I would go to this code window. Like if I wanted to know what kind of property is on this game object, or what's the name of that thing that lets me turn it on and off, then I would go to scripting reference. If I wanted to know more just in general about what is a game object, how does it work in the Unity engine, I would go to the Unity manual. So those two are right accessible from the help in the menu bar. Ooh, there's one last thing that I want to tell you really quick about game objects, and that every game object has a state, and its state is enabled, or I guess it's active or not active. So that is represented here by this little check mark. When that check mark is not present, the game object is not active, and none of the components on the game object will do anything. They don't do their job essentially. Another one that will continue to really do its job is transform, because it will still theoretically be there, but no one can see or interact with it in any real way. So that kind of is, right now, mostly you can see that it's just being shown and hidden, which is a combination of the mesh filter and the mesh renderer. Where is the renderer? Oh, it's on that bar. You can barely see the words mesh renderer. But the mesh renderer, those two work together to make it. Cool. So we're going to talk about the scene window, and then we're going to get to coding. So, the scene window is where you've been seeing things happen. The visual representation of what's in your scene. Before we get to that, what did we learn about game objects? Game objects are what? Nikita? They're what? The objects in your game. Yes. And Ferva?
Containers are components.
Yes, they're containers for components. Cool. Let's write down one more thing right now. I'm going to say components are pieces of code that perform a task. This is like a higher level task. Don't write the one. This is like a higher level task, not like adding two things together. It's like we're talking about a big task, like do physics, do rendering, like all those things take a lot of work.
They ask you to do math.
What?
They ask you to do math.
Yeah, you could write a component that does math, that does different math. Yeah. Oh, actually, that's a good. That's a good point because let's do one thing here. I want to show you one cool feature about the editor is that the editor or the inspector here can do math. So if I wanted my scale to be 3 times as big, I can do 1 times 3 with the asterisk, and it gets 3 times as big. I can do the forward slash sign for division. I can divide it by 3 again, and it comes back to 1. I can add 2. I can subtract 2. Got your major math function. Those variables are only numbers. So see what happens if you try to put letters in. If I put N, it's just going to change it to 0. Because it's like, I don't know what that is. That's not a number. And the default for this kind of variable is 0. Even though the default on the scale part of the transform component is 1, the default for a variable that is being stored on that property is 0. So we're talking about the scene window now. So game objects are seen here in the hierarchy. You can see the components in the inspector, and we can see the game objects where they are in the world in the scene window represented visually instead of just numbers. Like if you're like, okay, it's at position 50 on the X, like I'm trying to imagine that in my head. No, Unity just shows you. That's one of the great things about it. So we're going to learn how to use the scene window now to also help us edit things. We have 3 tools that help us with the transform component specifically, because it's a common feature. So right now, if you push the Q button and you have the scene window focus, you'll get up on the top row here. Let me show up here. Here are our tools. And right now we are on we're on the move tool. So by pushing Q or by pressing that button, you get this tool. And we can click on these arrows and we can drag on a single axis. That helps us position things. Just like the editor, but a little bit more intuitively. And these little boxes here are actually doing 2 planes at once. So here I'm doing only moving on the X and the Y, and whatever color is the one that's locked. The blue represents the Z-axis, so I won't be moving on the Z-axis, but I'll move on the other two axes here. This one I won't move on the X-axis, but I'll move on the other two axes. And this one I won't move on the Y, but I'll move on the X and the Z. Up here, you can click it or you can push the Q button. And the left. If we want to rotate this, on the rotation, push the E key. Now I have to go and rotate views. It's kind of hard to see the in the light here. It's kind of hard to see the axes. Just like um, but if you click on the different colors, you can rotate around that. So rotate on that axis. So here I'm rotating on the y-axis. This is the red one, I'm rotating on the x-axis. And here it's blue that I'm rotating on the z-axis. And lastly here, the ones that we'll talk about today, scale tool. It again has the z-axis represented in the colors, and when I click and drag on one, I scale it on that axis. On this one, scale on that axis. On this one, scale on this axis. If I want to scale all three at once, I click on the one in the middle, and the whole object gets bigger or smaller proportionally to the scales of the axes that are on the side. We're going to go back now to 2D mode, so click this 2D. So now we're in 2D again. Click reset our transform component. Because I want to show you that this is the view we'll be using in class. So we're making a 2D game, we're not making a 3D game. It's a bit more complicated this time. There's a whole other access to care about. So this is the view we'll use most of the time right here. And if you want to like pan around where the view is, you can right click and drag, and it'll move where you are on the grid, like where the camera essentially is facing on the grid, the camera that's rendering the scene view. You're not moving the position of the object, you're moving where you're looking instead. Does that make sense? Real? Yeah? Cool. That's the scene window. Those are going to be our major features that we're going over today. There's a lot more still, but not everything is needed all the time. Now we're going to go back to Canvas. We're going to go to Modules. We've already done getting started, checking out lesson 1, and opening the project. We're going to click on Playing the Game. And now we're going to have some time where you're going to be going at your own pace and just following, Canvas here. So go ahead. We're going to be going from playing the game to the last module where we'll stop and collect ourselves, and doing some stuff is default values. So once you get to creating a player movement class, if you get that far, then we'll gather back as a class and talk about things. So go ahead and go through that at your own pace. If you have any questions, please ask me or TA.